Um, Thank you. And then we'll also be recording it, if you don't mind, just in case other people can play it back who've missed it. And we want to encourage you to think about how you can train others in your teams, because I think not just HR and people working in HR are related to recruitment, but line managers as well get heavily involved in recruitment, selection, writing job descriptions, and all that's involved in that. Um, and then also, we would like to hear and from everybody on your valuable experiences as well. So for those of you who are very, very experienced already in all of this, we thank you for listening. Please take this as a refresher and a time to also just really share the things that you've already done. For those of us who are listening for the first time, please feel free to use the chat to ask questions. We will also be stopping periodically for discussions. So feel free to ask questions, or if you need any clarification after, always feel free to approach Jane or myself to understand further about this. So, okay, let's make a start. We want to first open with a discussion, just picking at why is safe recruitment important for TLM? Please feel free to use the chat. I'm so sorry. Please feel free to use the chat or also to unmute. So yeah, just share with us.
Well, just to say that the nature of what we do, obviously we work with vulnerable adults and children, but the nature of what we do, it's very, very important that we have stringent processes to make sure that we have safe recruitment. And then, of course, we want to protect our employees, ourselves, and volunteers as well. But yeah, that's why it's just so incredibly important that we have processes, we follow them, and that we test them from time to time to make sure that they are fit for purpose.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Stopping people right at the very gate is extremely important as well. Could we hear from someone else who might, have just more to add on why safe recruitment is so important, especially to TLM?
I think it's also about the fact that we are dealing with donors' money, and therefore we have a very high level of accountability back to those donors. And in our case, whereas a significant amount which is institutional donors like the government, and then there's extra levels of compliance that require us to have these kinds of processes in place. So that's like another side to it as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us that perspective as well. That's important, accountability and transparency in all that we do. So just running through the list, and it's already been mentioned, having the right staff in place is really key to safeguarding. We want to prevent unsafe people from entering right from the very beginning as much as we can, and to put things in place to account for that. As you can see, abusers have been known to target NGOs. Many news articles have come out about that, highlighting that fact. And any applicant who intends to join TLM needs to understand from the very start that we take it very seriously. And we need to do all that we can to prevent people from harm, especially children and then vulnerable adults. So this is why it is so important. If you have other things that we have missed out, please put it in the chat and let us know as well. Okay, for now, we are going to play the first video on safeguarding and recruitment. And I think we're going to share our screen for this one. Jane.
Our goal at the Leprosy Mission is to transform the lives of people affected by leprosy and enable them to achieve healing and dignity and live life in all its fullness. We cannot do this without people. The first step in safeguarding is to make sure we employ the right staff. People are the key.
DSLs, line managers and HR staff need to consider safeguarding all the way from the beginning of the recruitment process to the time when a staff member leaves the organisation.
Our zero tolerance policy towards any abuse, neglect or exploitation, and our expectation with regard to safeguarding should be explicitly stated in all our job descriptions.
When recruiting and selecting staff, there are 6 important areas to consider. Firstly, line managers need to do risk assessments for every role with support from HR and the DSL. This involves assessing how much direct or indirect contact the person will have with children and vulnerable adults, or their personal data such as images and case studies. The International Office has a tool available to help you with this.
Next, safeguarding questions should be included in all interviews. While these will vary depending on the role, sample questions can be found on the Glass Cube's HR Hub. All job adverts should state our zero tolerance to abuse and exploitation, and the fact that appropriate background and reference checks will be taken before the job is confirmed.
Successful candidates must read and understand all safeguarding policies and procedures and sign our code of conduct in their local language before the appointment is confirmed. Our safeguarding expectations should be included in their contract. And finally, when someone starts work, they should have an initial safeguarding orientation within 2 weeks, and their probation review should cover the subject.
Okay, did you catch the 6 points that were mentioned in the safeguarding in the video? Could somebody just, or could you just list out any of the 6 points? You don't have to list all 6.
Role risk assessments is one.
Thank you.
And must be done by line managers. Safeguarding questions in all recruitment processes.
Having an induction in the first 2 weeks of joining.
Yep.
COC signature,
Code of
signing for code of conduct.
Thank you, Val. Yes, thank you.
Including it in contracts.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't even need to put it in a new slide, but here it is. Role risk assessment, safeguarding interview questions. Job adverts need to include zero tolerance, and that's something that we're really recommending, that we put a statement in our job advertisements to state that. Signing the safeguarding code of conduct and also the policy. You know, expectations should be also included in all contracts, which is what we are also recommending. And new staff should receive safeguarding orientation in the first weeks of starting work. So the very first thing that we're going to have a look at now is the role risk assessment. We're not going to go through the whole thing again. And again, if you need more explanation on this, let us know. But as an overview, you can see that there are just 6 questions whenever we do a role risk assessment. And this is looking at the position and the job and what it does and what the job is expecting people to do. And we run through the questions and we look at it for every single role. And then we determine whether the risk is low, medium, or high, where you can see at the bottom in the 3 colored boxes over there. And I think a lot of us are very familiar with this as well, but I would like to just ask, you know, if we have any experience conducting role risk assessments in your country so far. You know, how have you done it? Yeah, what has your experience been? Have you done it together with staff? Yeah, Belle, I see your microphone is unmuted. Belle, would you like to share?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, Leprosy Mission in Ethiopia has already conducted for all jobs and roles. When I say all, it says only 5. It seems like a lot, but it's okay. We sat down with all the job owners. And then we talked about how far the job owner is involved with the beneficiaries and children and the vulnerable adult. Is it a direct contact? Does it have indirect contact? The job exposed him to be alone with beneficiaries and so on. So we revised each and every job descriptions, and we modified it accordingly.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really helpful. Has anyone done it in a similar way or slightly differently?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we've had quite a lot of discussion around question 2, which is around the digital side of things, really, because we obviously got resource space where we've got photographs and consent forms and also the digital stuff. So it's sort of who's got access to those kind of things. So it's been a really good form. It's very simple and only having a few questions, but it's certainly provoked lots of conversation around who has access to what. So thank you for that. It's been a great tool.
Thank you. And thank you also for your help informing the subsequent statements, which we will share after this as well. I think I saw Doris's hand raised. Yes, Doris?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, for our own experience is that first of all, we don't assess staff in the country office. So all project manager who is a line manager should assess for the one who is important, because he knows what exactly he's do in the field. So each line manager says a project manager should do a risk assessment for the team. And also after doing it, the team should, the staff should know that he is a high risk or what kind of level of risk. And yes, I think that's what I could say. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I think we definitely agree that including the line managers is absolutely essential. As you say, they know the role well, and they can be more accurate in assessing it as well. Thank you very much. We're now going to hear from a special guest who, on her experience of actually using the role risk assessment and in fact coming up with a fantastic checklist to help her just make life easier for her. And it's Narada. So I'm just going to pass the time over to Narada to just show us what she's done and her experience as well. Thanks, Narada.
Thanks, Cindy. So am I able to share my screen now?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, fantastic. And hopefully you can now all I hit the share button. Hopefully you can all see that spreadsheet.
Yes. Okay,
great. So following the release of the safeguarding role risk assessment, it was just evident that the number of recruitment checks was going to continue to grow. And we had some extra checks that we have to do here in Australia as well. So I'm a big fan of checklists as just being the way to check off and make sure that you're covering everything off. So I wanted to have a look at how I could incorporate the role risk assessment into some kind of checklist. So for each staff member, I could make sure that we, first of all, had done the role risk assessment, but then that we had met all the criteria that were required for that. So I created this spreadsheet, and this first sheet I'm showing you is where you would list all the staff.
Sorry, you accidentally become muted, Narada. Sorry. Good. Yes.
There we are. Sorry. So created this sheet where we can check off that each staff member has the various checks. But I'll start from this sheet here, the actual assessment sheet, and just to show you how I've set this up for completing the role risk assessment in the first place. So obviously, as we have discussed, this is something that you do in cooperation with the line manager, but then it's just an opportunity to put it into the spreadsheet and to so that we can see that we've got all the roles covered. So I'm just going to enter a new role into here to show you how it works. So we recently engaged a digital content coordinator in our marketing department. a full-time role. And then what I do is I come down to the assessment questions that we have here, and I ask the question. So, will this position have face-to-face, direct face-to-face access or contact with children or vulnerable adults? No. But will they have indirect access through online or digital means? Yes. Will they have access to a database? Yes. And will they have access to visuals or images? Yes. So I come up here and I put a Y in each of these columns. And you'll see immediately that set the overall risk assessment to medium. Let's come back and look at the other questions. And now for this role, they're not going to involve any being alone with vulnerable adults or involve control, need for physical contact, excuse me, or they won't be providing advice and support. So there's no need to put a yes in any of the high risk ones. So we can confirm that this role is a medium role. You'll see, as for example, on this line here, where the answer to all of the questions is no, it's automatically left as a low role. And on other roles where there's going to put a Y under the high risk questions, then it gets flagged as a high risk role. So this is the way where the spreadsheet is just set up. When you put a role in and answer the questions, it's going to flag the role for you here. And then you can come across into this spreadsheet and enter the details of the role. And as soon as you enter the role, as long as it matches the title in the assessment spreadsheet, it's going to pre-populate for you what the safeguarding risk assessment is. And then you can put the date in that the risk assessment was completed. So we recently took somebody on in this role, and they started on the 20th of September this year. And so because they're a medium risk, then we know that we don't need to do this risk assessment again for 12 months. So that's flagged as that's when that assessment will be due. And then you can just enter that individual's name, put their start date, and check off all of these things. So these are the things that, sorry, I think I've dropped out there. These are the things that you will have done throughout the recruitment process. As you were doing your various checks with them, we made sure that all of these things were done. And some of these checks are required for every role for us, and some of them are not. And so you can just simply a way of checking off each role. And so the beauty of this is obviously you probably have multiple people who do the same role. So for the assessment sheet, this is just for the roles only. So one line for each role. And then when you come back onto the checklist, that's for each individual person. So that's just a very simple way I've set up of how we manage this. Happy to take any questions around that.
Thanks, Narida. Are there any questions for Narida?
Is that one spreadsheet, Nerida, or have you got two there?
It's one spreadsheet and several different worksheets within that.
Brilliant. Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so just to say, there are formulas set up in some of the columns or conditional formatting. I'm not an Excel expert. I had someone help me with this, but I get ideas about, I think Excel should be able to do this. And then I go and find out how to do it. Or we have an amazing expert in our office and knows exactly how to do these things. So I enlisted help. So if it breaks, I'm not entirely sure how to fix it, but I can work out with someone how to do that.
Oh, it's a fantastic tool. Yes, and Jane's actually shared the link. Narida's put it sent us the actual document there on the link, and we can use it. I think if we don't try and change it and reformat it in our own way, it should work. And if it doesn't, I hope somebody you have in Excel who's good at Excel within your office can also help you. But Nerida's also said she's happy to take a few questions if there are any troubleshooting issues as well. But thank you so much, Nerida.
You're welcome. And just to say, with all these column headings, that can relate to what the issues are, or the checks that you have to do in country that are particularly relevant for you. So there's plenty of room to make it your own for what you need.
Exactly. If you have noticed that under the column right now where you see in front of you risk assessment dates, they are actually recommendations in our role risk assessment form on depending on the risk level for the position. This is how often they need to be reassessed. The role needs to be reassessed, and it already puts it in. So low, it will calculate how many dates later from when you first assessed it. So it's a very, very clever tool, and it's all in there. And hopefully it just helps, especially if there are a lot of staff in your office. It might help make things easier for you, and that you can see it all on one screen. But thank you. If there are any questions, please do put it in the chat as well. And thank you again, Narada.
You're welcome.
Okay, can I take over your screen now?
Yes.
All right, okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so on the note of safeguarding role risk assessments, one of the things that we need to do when we have completed the role risk assessment is to add two statements into the individual's job description. The first statement is what you see on your screen right now. This is a general statement for every job description, and we put our office name. You can just copy it actually. If you download the role risk assessment form, it is towards the last page of the role risk assessment form. So scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll find it there. We need to put this general statement for everybody. Then let me show you the next one. Depending on the risk level for the role, you need to copy the relevant paragraph and then put that into the job description as well. So each job description should have two safeguarding statements, one general one in the page before, and then one of these depending on the role. Yes, so if you haven't done it, please do consider re-looking at it, putting it in, and then having staff also read through so that they know that their job descriptions have been changed, for them to acknowledge it, either to sign or to acknowledge it in some way as well, so that they understand all that comes together with this role. Okay, we are going to now have a really quick poll for you on this. We thought we'd spice it up with a little poll. Okay, let me pause, stop my share. Jane should be sharing the poll. Would you keep us updated, Jane, on the poll?
Sure. So can people see the poll on their screens now? Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll just give you some time to read the questions and then to answer to give your answers. So the first question is just about the general safeguarding statement, which is the standard wording that should be in all job descriptions. And the second one is about that more detailed level according to high, medium, or low risk. So 3 people have responded so far, and we'll just wait a wee while longer to give you all a chance to respond. And maybe while we're just waiting, we're about half the people have responded now, just also to say welcome to people who joined in the last 10 minutes or so. It's really nice to have you with us, so thank you for joining us. Okay, so 60% of people have taken the poll. Let's have, I'll count down from 10. So you've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, great. So more than half of the people responded. I'm going to share the results now. So hopefully you can see the results on your screen. Yeah. Okay. Cindy, do you want to have a look at that?
I can't see the results, unfortunately.
Oh, you
because I
can't
think
see the
purple. No, I can't.
results.
That's why I was a bit flying blind. Could you read it out, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So for question 1, which is the one, have you included the general safeguarding statement in all job descriptions? So about 60% of people said yes, it's now in all of the job descriptions in their country, which is a big achievement.
Brilliant.
2 people said no, it's not done yet. So hopefully that's something that can be tried in the next couple of months, perhaps. And then another 2 people said they're working on it. So well done for all the progress made in that area. And we do realize for some countries, this is a really, really big task. So well done in starting. The second question then was about including the specific safeguarding statement in the job description, which related to the level of risk. And 20% of people have included it in all job descriptions. So really well done in that. About half have not included it yet. So maybe after today, you can go away and have a look at the wording again. And when you have the opportunity, include it in the job descriptions. And then about a third, so 35% are in the middle of doing it now. So really good progress being made. Okay.
Thank you very much. And thank you also for taking the poll. I know sometimes, depending on the connection, you may also not be able to see the poll, but we do hope that most people had a chance to respond. Thank you for doing that. And just a reminder again that the statements for the job description are important to put into the job description. So if you have trouble finding it, do let us know. Otherwise, they are on the risk assessment form itself on the HR Hub and right at the very end. Okay, so I think if you do have further questions, again, please do make use of the chat. We are going to be moving along now to the next section of our day. So, but don't worry, we will be checking the chat at all times. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, we're moving along quickly this morning. So hopefully you've had some coffee and you're feeling engaged with what we're talking about. So we're now briefly just going to talk about including safeguarding in job adverts. And this is something that was mentioned in the video that we watched. And we thought just a good place to start would be to ask, everyone, how have you included safeguarding in job advertisements in your country? So if you've been advertising a job in the last year, have you been able to include safeguarding in the advertisement, and how have you been able to do that? So maybe just feel free to unmute if you've got anything to share.
Yeah, just so yeah, I include a statement on the advert. It does make the advert quite long, and but it's really important that we put that statement in. And I also say that we'll be taking up references and a criminal offences check. So that actually goes in the advert, and then what's linked to the advert is the job description, which will show the level of will show the safeguarding statement and the risk level associated with what we've been talking about. And then in the person spec, I will actually put the level. Again, there'll be some more safeguarding statement there, again, about the risk, and it would also specify what level of police check I will be taking as well. So it's all the way through, you know, the advert, the job description, the person spec, they're all there together to view online. So it's very, very clear that it's a really important process, and we have zero tolerance to it.
Yeah,
trying to be as preventative as possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Arminda. And how do you normally advertise a role in England and Wales?
Well, they're mainly on job boards, so they're on our website, and then we link them to external job boards, so that there's a particular group of job boards that we feel are good for attracting people into the organisation. So yeah, so it's on our website, and then we link it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak from their experience? Also, I'm interested to know, does anyone advertise in newspapers? Now, I'm a little bit out of touch as to where people advertise these days. I know so much is now online, but does anyone advertise in a newspaper, and what would be your experience of that? I just wonder.
Yes, for DR Congo, advertise is not online, so just we write it, and then yeah, in the past we didn't put the safeguarding, but for now we include safeguarding and say that TLM is zero tolerance for the abuse person, and then so that in the interview, and we say that you see in the in the advertisement, if that to tell them is zero tolerance. How do you think? Because he knows, and he saw in the advertisement that tell them is zero tolerance. So we write it and clear, write, and they saw, and then we go to give to the person, but we write ourselves. We don't put it online. So
yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Doris. And thank you, Arminda. I think it's just helpful to hear that in both the mediums that you use, you've been able to include the zero tolerance statement. So just as a reminder, there is the statement that is recommended on the screen. And I know some of you may have adopted that and made it slightly longer, but it's just the statement that should be in all the job adverts as much as possible. I think we do recognise if you advertise in a newspaper and it's quite expensive, then getting all of those words in may be difficult, but at least if you could get a sentence about safeguarding, we would recommend that. Okay, so we're moving on quickly today, and we're now going to talk about application forms, which is something that I know we've talked about maybe over the last couple of years, and trying to bring in some standardization in application forms. So just question for all of you is, when you recruit, do candidates send you their CVs, or do you ask candidates to complete a standard application form? So please just, feel free to share your experience of what you do in your country.
Okay, we do ask them to complete a standard application form, and we ask particular questions on that. And then we also ask them to send a covering letter for their motivation to apply for the role, and we ask for a CV as well. And I think having a CV is important, because that, potentially could show up gaps in the recruitment process, that in their job history, that you could inquire about, which might have an influence on your safeguarding.
Yeah, thank you, Arminda. So you use an application form, ask for CVs, and also ask for covering letters.
Yeah, the application form has at the end some various boxes which ask them to consent for us to do various things with data as well. So that that's involved in sort of the criminal offence checks, and just processing them as a candidate, and staying within data protection laws within the UK. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else have experience then of using application forms, and how has that gone in your country? I'm thinking of perhaps some of the countries in Asia, like Bangladesh or Myanmar. Anything you'd like to share?
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Yeah, in Bangladesh we are using, but only for, I mean, it has graded in which level we are using this form, because of if we use this form for the field level stuff, sometimes it's difficult to answer the questions and also fill up the form, but CV is easier for them. So we are using from project officer to managerial and program leaders level, and we use this from after collection of CV or who are selected for interviews actually, because there are some questions related to our values, and in our country context, sometimes it's difficult to use that kind of wording actually. So to manage that kind of challenges, we are using this form right after the primary CVs for the second step.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Shima. So you're saying in Bangladesh you use the form for certain grades of position, and you also use it as a second step after you've received the initial CVs. Thank you for sharing that. And Doris, I see your hands up. Is there something you'd like to share?
Yes, Jen. Yes, please. Because in DRCs, as we said, we don't put in online our advertise. So once the candidates saw the advertise, they just send the file, and when we have we can have a 20, we can have a 25, and then after select, when we select, we have already the addresses of all those candidates who which we think that will pass the test and interview, and then we send to them the HR the TLM standard application form, because we have a TLM one, yeah, and we send to those we select already, and they will fill and send it to us. But in the beginning, we don't because it's not online. We just have it.
Yeah,
it's not online. Yeah.
Yeah.
We select before. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Doris. So again, you invite applications, and then after you've received the ones that you are most impressed by, then you would ask them to complete the application. That's great. Thank you. Then we have another question for you. So for those of you who are using application forms, just how have you included safeguarding in the form? So I guess, have you been able to include safeguarding in the application form, and how have you been able to do that? Anyone like to share on that? Maybe, I know P&G did some recruitment this year. I heard from Cindy you were busy doing recruitment, so maybe P&G, are you able to share about how you've included safeguarding in your application process?
Dorothy, you want to talk, or do you want me to talk? I'll just say that basically for last year and this year, we haven't recruited so far, but we just did one for a small project, which is prep farming project, and we just recently recruited a project manager for this project. And we are happy to include all this in his application form, which we have already started, and it's in process, and we're just about to conclude with his risk assessment. So maybe Natalie can also add in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I guess we were guided by Cindy, but I'm pretty sure we added a section at the end of the application form about safeguarding, and like, I don't know, just asking them about their knowledge, and yeah, I don't know, the normal questions. I haven't looked at it for ages, but yeah, whatever we're supposed to add, we added it. Yeah,
no, you're quite right. And I'm sorry for putting P&G on the spot there, but I just because I knew you guys were on top of things. So
it's okay.
Good, thank you. So yeah, we can just then move on to show you. I mean, this is what's included in the standard TLM template. You can see on the screen the suggestion or recommendation is to add that top paragraph, which is about safeguarding. So again, it's pretty much the same wording that would be in the job advertisement, that would be in the job description, but this extra bit about successful applicants being subject to appropriate checks and then being required to fill in a self-declaration form. So if you haven't already got some wording like that on your application form, it would be great if you could add it. And then at the bottom of the screen, there's also more suggested wording, which is really around confidentiality and data protection. So again, probably some of you already have something on your forms that looks like that. But if you don't, we just really recommend that you can put those wordings on your forms. I see, Doris, your hand's up. Have you got something to ask or something to comment on?
Yes, we are wondering if our TLM application form, you cannot give us a kind of link. And then we put the link in the statement and say that if you are a candidate, should you complete this form? And if we can have this link and put it in the advertisement, it can be good than sending by mail. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just to help me understand, you're asking if we can provide like a link to the application form online. Is that right?
Yes,
And then
yes.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's possible. We can do that. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. We could send you the link for the English version and also for the French version. And if we make it a public link, then anyone,
Yes.
even without Glass Cube's access, they can complete it. So that's a good idea, Doris.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just make a note. Thank you for the suggestion. Okay, thank you. And also thank you, Talia, for saying that you're also using an application form which includes statements about safeguarding confidentiality and data protection. Fantastic. Okay, moving on to the next bit then. Yes, any questions on what we've covered so far?
I have a question on job advertisements, and especially I'm thinking about countries who may be using more of newspaper adverts. And in newspaper advertising, I'm looking at space and cost. And I wonder if it will be possible to capture all the details, bearing in mind the space and cost in newspaper advertising. Would it, or is there a possibility of like having a shorter version of the job adverts in the newspapers and then referencing it to details probably online? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, thank you, George. It's a really good suggestion. So you're kind of sharing that it would be good to have maybe a link or some direction on the newspaper advertisement to link to further information elsewhere. I think, yeah, that's spot on. Good suggestion. Thank you for that. Yeah, because I think we all know newspaper advertising can be a very expensive thing. So you're really stuck to how many words you can put in the advert. Okay, any other questions or suggestions?
Jane, can I just say something to add on to Okello?
Yes.
For newspaper advertisement, yes, it's pretty much expensive, but what we normally do is we compare. There are a couple of newspaper companies, so we compare their prices. Some cost that are very expensive, they come in color. And if it's in black and white, it's a little bit cheap and we have to negotiate. And one of the best newspaper company that we use to do our advertising, they give us a free upload onto an online link, which it comes for 30 days free of charge. So we only pay for the newspaper, advertisement, and they help us upload to the online link for free for 30 days. So, which is a good deal for us.
That's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Dorothy. Yeah, and good point as well about black and white can be cheaper than color. So thank you for that reminder as well. Okay, we're just going to take a quick break now because we've been together almost an hour and we thought probably you need water or you need coffee or you need to stretch or get some fresh air. So if we could just take a 5-minute break. So that would be back UK time at 55 past the hour. So hopefully you'll all come back after you get a nice cup of coffee and we'll see you soon. Okay, thank you.